You already know how to be consistent when someone else is expecting something from you. You arrive on time. You follow instructions. You finish tasks you do not feel like doing. You learn what needs to be learned because your position depends on it. This is the uncomfortable part. Your problem is not that you cannot commit. Your problem is that your commitment changes when the authority becomes your own. At work, you behave like a serious person. You manage pressure, control your mood, respect deadlines, and keep moving even when you are tired. But when the promise is personal, the standard becomes softer. You delay, you negotiate, you break your own word quietly because there is no manager standing over you. And slowly, you train yourself to believe your own goals can wait. This is where the pattern begins. You are not lacking ability. You are misplacing loyalty. The same focus you give to another person's schedule can be redirected toward your own future. The first step is not to hate the job or blame the boss. The first step is to notice that you have been treating external expectations as more serious than your own word. A deadline at work feels real because it has structure around it. There is a calendar, a person waiting, a consequence, and a clear expectation. Your personal dream often has none of that. It lives quietly in your mind, without witnesses, without pressure, without immediate punishment. So you keep pushing it forward, not because it is unimportant, but because nobody forces you to protect it. This is how months disappear. You handle the urgent email, the meeting, the report, the extra request, and the responsibility that belongs to your role. Then your own project gets whatever energy is left at night. And because there is almost nothing left, you tell yourself you will begin tomorrow. The dream does not die dramatically. It gets postponed until postponing becomes your identity. But here's the part people usually miss. A dream does not become serious because it inspires you. It becomes serious when you give it structure. A time, a place, a rule, a consequence, a standard you do not renegotiate every morning. You do not need your dream to scream louder. You need to stop making it compete with everything you already decided matters more. Every time you break a promise to yourself, something small changes inside you, you may move on quickly. You may say it was just one morning, one workout, one writing session, one missed hour, but your mind is always listening. It records the gap between what you said and what you did. Over time, that gap becomes difficult to ignore. This is why self-trust becomes fragile. You stop fully believing your own plans because you have seen yourself abandon them too many times. You make goals, but part of you already expects the excuse. You feel motivated for a moment, but another part of you remembers the pattern. The damage is quiet, but real. You become a person who needs external pressure to become reliable. Slow down here. This is not about perfection. It is about rebuilding evidence. One kept promise at a time. One small action that teaches your mind you are becoming different. If you want confidence, start by becoming believable to yourself again. Not through speeches, not through intensity, through repeated proof that your own word is no longer the easiest thing to break. Many people are reliable at work because fear keeps them organized. Fear of losing the job, fear of being corrected. Fear of disappointing someone with authority. Fear can create punctuality, performance, and effort. But fear is a poor foundation for your personal life. When fear is the only thing that moves you, you become responsible only where punishment is immediate. This explains why you can wake up early for someone else and ignore the alarm you set for yourself. The work alarm carries consequences. Your personal alarm carries meaning. But meaning requires self-respect to protect it. Without that respect, comfort starts negotiating. 5 more minutes, 1 more day, 1 more excuse, and nothing breaks immediately, so you assume nothing serious happened. The shift is learning to obey respect instead of fear. Respect for your time, respect for your future, respect for the version of you that keeps waiting for you to act like his life matters. Fear may make you perform under pressure, but self-respect makes you lead when nobody is watching. That is the kind of leadership your own life has been missing. You may finish the day exhausted and still feel proud because you worked hard. You answered messages, solved problems, attended meetings, handled pressure, and gave energy to everything that demanded it. From the outside, it looks like productivity. But productivity has a question attached to it, for whom movement is not the same as ownership. This is the quiet trap. You can spend years being useful while your own life stays underdeveloped. You can become excellent at helping an organization move forward while your body, mind, skills, relationships, and personal vision remain neglected. You're not doing nothing. That is why the pattern is so hard to see. You're doing a lot, just not always for the life you say you want. And once you notice this, another truth becomes easier to accept. Your energy is not unlimited, so where you place, it becomes your future. If your best focus always goes outward and your own goals receive the leftovers, your results will reflect that. The answer is not to stop working. The answer is to reserve a serious portion of your strength for the person you are becoming. There is a life you keep postponing because another plan always feels more urgent. The job has deadlines. Other people have expectations. Bills have dates. Responsibilities have pressure. Your own vision, because it is quieter, keeps being pushed behind everything else, not because you stopped wanting it, but because you trained yourself to treat it like something optional. This is how a person becomes loyal to survival and disconnected from direction. You tell yourself you are being responsible, and in many ways you are. But responsibility becomes incomplete when it protects your income while abandoning your future. You may be building stability on the outside, but inside, you feel the quiet weight of knowing you keep delaying the life that would actually belong to you. The next shift is simple, but not easy. Stop treating your dream like a reward you will touch only after everyone else is satisfied. Your future needs scheduled respect, not leftover energy. Even 30 focused minutes protected daily can begin to change your identity. The point is not to escape responsibility. The point is to include yourself in it. Having a boss can feel frustrating, but it also gives you something many people secretly depend on: direction. Someone tells you what matters, when it is due, what success looks like, and what happens if you fail. That structure removes a heavy burden. You do not have to decide the whole path. You only have to perform inside the system. But when the system disappears, your personal life exposes a different problem. Nobody tells you exactly what to build. Nobody forces you to choose a goal. Nobody checks whether you respected the plan, so freedom starts feeling heavy. You say you want independence, but independence requires decisions you can no longer outsource. This is where comfort hides inside obedience. Slow down here. Being led is easier than leading yourself, but easier does not mean better. If you want a life that reflects your values, you must become willing to make decisions without applause, without pressure, and without someone standing over you. Self-leadership begins when you stop waiting for external structure and start building your own. Your own goals often feel less urgent because their consequences are delayed. If you miss work repeatedly, the result appears quickly: a warning, a lost opportunity, a damaged reputation. But if you miss your personal goals, the damage usually arrives slowly. One skipped morning becomes a week, 1 week becomes a month, 1 month becomes another version of your life. That delay is dangerous because it gives excuses time to sound reasonable. You tell yourself you're tired, busy, stressed, waiting for the right season, waiting for more motivation, waiting for clarity, and because nothing collapses immediately, you keep believing the cost is small. But the real cost is not one missed action. It is the identity you build while repeatedly choosing delay. This is where clarity begins. Your future does not become urgent by itself. You make it urgent by respecting consequences before they become visible. You act before regret has to teach you. You create personal deadlines, personal standards, and personal accountability. Not because someone will punish you tomorrow, but because you finally understand that quiet delays still shape your life. Self-betrayal creates a debt that does not always look like debt. It looks like frustration, irritability, low confidence, a strange heaviness when you think about your goals. You may not connect those feelings to the promises you keep breaking, but your mind does. Every ignored commitment adds weight to the relationship you have with yourself. Over time, this emotional debt changes how you move. You hesitate before starting because you do not trust yourself to continue. You avoid planning because planning reminds you of past failures. You become defensive when someone talks about discipline because a part of you feels exposed. The problem is no longer the missed habit. The problem is the story the missed habit keeps confirming. But debt can be paid. Not through guilt, through evidence. You pay it by keeping small promises until your mind starts believing you again. Wake up when you said you would, write the page, train for 10 minutes, make the call. One honest action does not fix everything, but it interrupts the pattern. and sometimes interrupting the pattern is the beginning of becoming free. Many people give their sharpest hours to someone else and then expect their own future to grow from what remains. They work all day, absorb pressure, handle problems, make decisions, and arrive home mentally drained. Then they look at their own dream and wonder why it feels difficult to start. The issue is not always lack of passion. Sometimes you're trying to build with the weakest part of your day. Leftover energy creates leftover results. You may open the laptop, but your mind is tired. You may plan to train, but your body feels heavy. You may try to study, but your attention keeps drifting. Then you judge yourself harshly, as if your failure proves you do not care. But maybe the deeper issue is that you placed your own future at the end of a day already spent on everything else. The practical shift is to stop donating your best self by default. Protect a small piece of your strongest energy for your own life. Morning, lunch break, early evening, whatever fits your reality, but make it real. If your future only receives what is left after the world is done with you, it will always struggle to grow. Give it something serious and it will begin to answer. One reason work pulls better behavior out of you is because it gives you structure. There is a start time, a role, a list of responsibilities, a system for measuring progress. Even when you do not feel like showing up, the structure carries you forward. Your personal goals often fail because they are treated like wishes instead of responsibilities with a place in your actual day. Without structure, your dream has to fight your mood every morning. It has to compete with tiredness, distraction, comfort, and whatever problem appears first. That is a weak position for something important. You would never tell your boss, "I will work when I feel inspired." But you tell your own future that every week, and then wonder why it keeps waiting. This is not about making your life rigid. It is about giving your goals a container strong enough to survive your emotions. Choose the hour, choose the task, choose the minimum standard. Create a simple system that does not depend on excitement. When your life has structure, your future no longer has to beg for attention. It has a place to stand. At work, a contract matters because you see it as binding. You understand that your agreement has consequences. You may not love every part of it, but you respect it because it defines what is expected. Your personal promises need the same level of seriousness, not because you're trying to become harsh with yourself, but because your word must mean something when no one else is watching. The danger of casually breaking your own word is that it teaches you to negotiate with yourself too easily. You say tomorrow and feel no weight. You cancel the plan and feel only temporary relief. You lower the standard and call it flexibility. But after enough repetition, your mind stops treating your decisions as decisions. It treats them as suggestions. The next shift is simple. Make fewer promises, but keep them with more respect. Do not build your identity on dramatic goals you abandon after 2 days. Build it on clean agreements you can actually honor. A serious man does not need to promise everything. He needs to stop betraying the few things he said truly mattered. You may be waiting to feel ready before you act like the person you want to become. You expect confidence first, motivation first, clarity first, energy first. But many times those feelings do not appear before action. They appear after evidence. You become the person by practicing the behavior, not by waiting for the emotion to approve it. At work, you already understand this. You do not wait to feel like a professional every morning before doing professional things. You simply enter the role. You show up, perform, respond, learn, and adapt. But in your personal life, you keep waiting for the right feeling to give you permission. That waiting slowly becomes another excuse with better language. You thought you needed to feel different before you could live differently. But often, you need to live differently long enough for your feelings to catch up. Start small, but start with identity. Ask what the person you're becoming would do next, then do the smallest, honest version of that. Confidence follows proof. Proof follows action. Your life is not only shaped by your goals, it is shaped by your standards. A goal says what you want. A standard says what you will no longer allow. Without standards, goals remain beautiful ideas that collapse under pressure. You can say you want freedom, health, confidence, and purpose, but if your daily standards contradict those desires, your life will believe your behavior, not your words. This is where many people feel confused. They want a different future, but they keep allowing the same habits to lead, the same late nights, the same excuses, the same distractions, the same avoidance, the same emotional negotiation. They do not need a more inspiring dream. They need a stronger line between the life they claim to want and the behavior that keeps pulling them away from it. A standard is a quiet form of leadership. It tells your emotions, your comfort, your environment, and your impulses that they do not get to vote on everything. You do not need to control your whole life at once. Start with one standard you will protect, one place where your future becomes non-negotiable. That is how self-leadership stops being an idea and becomes a practice. There is a moment in personal growth where you stop looking for someone else to give you permission to take your life seriously. No boss, no mentor, no audience, no perfect plan. No emotional guarantee. You begin to understand that the authority you keep obeying outside yourself must also be built inside yourself. If you do not become your own authority, your life will always depend on external pressure. You will work hard when someone demands it, move fast when consequences appear, and become serious only when fear enters the room. But your own future cannot be built only when pressure forces your hand. It needs leadership before crisis. It needs direction before regret. And this is where the real change begins. You stop asking who will make you show up. You stop waiting for life to punish you into discipline. You stop treating your own goals like they need approval from your mood. You become the person who gives the instruction and follows it, not perfectly, but seriously. That is the beginning of becoming a leader to yourself. The real test of leadership is not how you behave when someone is measuring you. It is how you behave when nobody is checking. When there is no clock-in system, no supervisor, no immediate consequence, and no external pressure. That is where your real relationship with yourself appears, not in public performance, but in private consistency. This is why personal leadership feels harder than professional obedience. At work, the environment pushes you into action. Alone, you must create the push from within. You must decide that your own instruction matters. You must respect the quiet plan, the early hour, the small habit, and the private promise before anyone else sees the result. Calm leadership is built in those unseen moments. The moment you start when you could delay, the moment you keep the promise when comfort offers a reason to quit, the moment you choose the future over the excuse. You do not become a leader to yourself through intensity. You become one by proving quietly and repeatedly that your word has weight. Motivation is useful, but it is unstable. It comes and goes with mood, energy, sleep, pressure, and emotion. Self-respect is different. Self-respect does not ask whether you feel excited today. It asks whether the action still matters. It reminds you that the promise was not made only for the days when life feels easy. When you depend only on motivation, your future becomes vulnerable to every emotional change. A tired morning can cancel a goal, a stressful day can break a habit, a difficult week can erase months of intention. Then you keep starting over, not because you lack potential, but because your system depends on a feeling that was never meant to carry your whole life. This is not discipline. This is self-respect. It is the decision to treat your own future as something real, even when nobody applauds you for protecting it. Motivation may help you begin, but self-respect helps you return, and returning again and again is where your identity starts becoming stronger than your excuses. There is a quiet power in becoming reliable to yourself. It does not need attention. It does not need announcement. It grows from the simple experience of saying something and then doing it. Over time, this changes how you see yourself. You stop needing to convince yourself that you can change because your behavior has already started giving you proof. This kind of reliability changes your confidence from the inside. You walk differently when you know you are no longer abandoning yourself at the first sign of discomfort. You make decisions with more peace because your standards are clearer. You stop begging for external validation because the relationship you have with yourself is no longer built on repeated disappointment. The next part is quieter, but more important. You do not need to become perfectly reliable overnight. You need to become less casual with your own betrayal. Start with one promise so small that keeping it becomes undeniable. Then protect it. Let that promise become evidence. Let evidence become trust. Let trust become the foundation of a stronger life. You already know how to be serious. You have proven it in places where consequences were clear. Now the work is to bring that same seriousness home to your health, your skills, your project, your peace, your family, your purpose. Your own dream does not need a fantasy version of you. It needs the same capable person you become when the world expects results. This does not mean treating your personal life like another exhausting job. It means giving your future the respect of structure, priority, and protection. It means no longer placing your dream at the end of the day like an optional hobby that only receives what is left. If it matters, it needs a place. If it matters, it needs energy. If it matters, it needs leadership. You thought the dream needed more inspiration. But what it may need is a calendar, a standard, a start time, and a version of you that stops negotiating against it. Build it calmly. Build it consistently. Build it without needing everyone to understand. The life that belongs to you will not appear while you keep giving your strongest self away without question. The final shift is not about hating authority. It is about becoming an authority in your own life. You know what it means to respect a role, a deadline, a responsibility, and a consequence. Now you must learn to respect your own direction with that same seriousness. Not with pressure that breaks you, but with standards that guide you. Imagine what would change if you stopped treating your personal promises as flexible suggestions. Imagine what would change if your morning plan mattered, if your health mattered, if your study time mattered, if your creative work mattered, if your future was no longer forced to survive on whatever energy remained after everyone else had taken their share. This is where you become difficult to distract from your own life. Not perfect, not untouchable, just serious. Serious enough to show up, serious enough to recover when you miss. Serious enough to stop making comfort the manager of your future, become the boss you would never dare to fail, and your life will slowly begin to respect your leadership. You are not broken because you have been more reliable for your boss than for yourself. You are seeing a pattern that many people never have the courage to admit. You know how to commit, you know how to work, you know how to learn, adjust, endure, and deliver. The question is not whether you have discipline. The question is why your own future has received so little of it. The change begins when you stop treating your goals like private wishes and start treating them like real responsibilities. Give them structure, give them time, give them consequences, give them your strongest energy, not only what remains after the world is finished with you. You do not need to become cruel to yourself. You need to become trustworthy to yourself. Keep smaller promises, protect clearer standards. Build evidence. Let your self-respect become stronger than your excuses. A life designed by others may feel safe for a while, but it will never feel fully yours. If this message helped you see the pattern more clearly, subscribe and keep returning to the kind of wisdom that helps you lead yourself with calm, strength, and responsibility.